Howdy ho, welcome to the Brinx and Hearse podcast. My name is Ryan McNeil.
Michael Frieri.
And in the wise words of Led Zeppelin, let the music be your master and heed the master's call. We're pulling back the curtain a little bit today and letting you in on our music tastes.
That's right, yeah.
You can tell a lot about somebody by their music taste and what they listen to. So we're going to give you our 10 favorite artists of all time and our favorite song of theirs.
Now, I don't know how long this episode is going to last, because I don't know too much about music to say much.
We contemplated an episode. I once said, I guess we could do an episode ranking the Strokes albums or something like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like we just end up saying, this shit sounds good to me.
Yeah.
You might get that 20 times right now.
We're no Fantano, but
yeah, because
I think it's a fun little episode here.
Yeah, because especially with me, I always just look for what feeling I get from the music. Because I've listened to bands who are very technically proficient and everything is top-notch stuff, but they make me feel nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's punk bands who really aren't great musicians or anything, but I actually get something out of it.
Yeah.
So these are going to be the artists, our 10 favorite, not our 10 best, not the best musicians of all time, who we like the best.
Yes.
So I should mention some few honorable mentions. Jack White deserves a mention as the gentleman who wrote the Brinx and Hearse theme song, Heidi Heidi Ho. Just for us, he did that.
Yes.
And also Mr. Ryo Fukio. Spent many hours listening to Mr. Fukio while studying.
Good pick.
So he deserves a mention.
Okay.
And there's also a musician who we have reluctantly heard a lot of music from. If you know who I'm talking about. We shared a floor with this gentleman.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Arashi.
Who?
Guts?
Oh, no, yeah. They also deserve a mention.
Okay, but yes, let's give a proper mention to Felino.
Okay, you said his name. We've said his name before here,
yeah,
so
we
yeah.
have.
Yes, for those who don't know, there was a gentleman who lived down the hall from us our junior year of college, and he was a DJ, and always working. He's very hard working at the stuff. You would hear his music all hours of the day at varying volumes. Sometimes he was kind enough to leave his door open so everyone could hear it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Felino, also a musician we have to mention as probably one of the few musicians I even know.
Yes.
So would you like me to start off with my number 10, Mikey?
Yeah, you can get it going.
All right. I have a band called Audio Slave. This is a supergroup.
Whoa.
We have Rage Against the Machine broke up and Soundgarden broke up around the same time. So you have the bass player, drummer, and guitarist. I think Tom Morello, one of the greatest guitarists of all time. From Rage Against the Machine, teamed up with Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, who's also one of the best singers ever. Beautiful, beautiful voice. And they created Audio Slave. They came out with 3 albums in the 2000s, and that's all I'm basing off. They're in my top 10, and they only had 3 albums in their whole career. All these guys together. They didn't miss. I don't think there's a bad song on any of them, and their debut album is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's all hard rock. It's heavy stuff. Each song is sophisticated, though. Each song has a very kind of complex message. Very mysteriousness is, I think, one of the keys to their music. At least for me, is you're never quite sure what they're getting at, and there's a lot of ambiguity to their lyrics. So you can kind of, more often than not, take what you want out of the music in whatever way you want. But yeah, I actually absolutely love Audio Slave. My favorite song of theirs from their debut album called Like a Stone. Beautiful song where it's just about a guy who is he's towards the end of his life and he's waiting like a stone he doesn't know what's coming next. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what's left for him after death. So he's just kind of trying to cover all his bases. So that's my number 10. One of my favorite bands of all time, Audio Slave.
Cool. I'll give them a listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd like them. I think I put a few songs on the BT&H mixtape.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I think you'd actually like a lot of their stuff.
All right. My number 10 is a lot. So a lot of my guys on here were at my one spot at other certain times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of them, and that's Tyler, the Creator. First started as a rapper and whatever, but he kind of morphed his sound very much so in the later years, and I think those are his best years. Album called Igor's Fantastic. Oh, did you say your favorite song, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. And my favorite song of his is the intro to that Igor album. That's Igor's Theme. It's a really cool like breakdown. No, really like not no lyrics or anything. I mean, there's like lyrics, but that's not the main attraction. It's like just like this build up, and the start of the song is like this, like the intro to like an IMAX movie where it's like, like
Oh,
that.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's a cool breakdown and stuff. And every album that he puts out, he kind of just redefines his sound, and everything he does, I love. It's been a while since I've really like been into him, but that's why he's number 10, and not.
When do you think
1.
you were? When do you think you were like listening to him the most? Like
When
was
was
that
I
middle
listening
school,
to
high
the
school?
most? I would say like maybe sophomore year of high school, around
Okay.
like freshman, sophomore, maybe junior.
Okay. I do kind of want to get into his stuff. Like I know absolutely nothing about like what kind of music he makes,
Yeah,
but I just like him as a person. He seems
Yeah.
fucking hilarious.
he's a great personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued by that. All right, my number 9, a gentleman who will make another appearance on this list in a different form. I have George Harrison. I think he had the best solo career of any of the Beatles, easily. I think each of his solo albums is fantastic, and I think was always the most contemplative Beatle. And what he did on his own is more impressive than what any of the others did. So that's why he's always been my favorite.
Right.
And his debut album, which my favorite song is called All Things Must Pass, the debut album is called All Things Must Pass, is very, very contemplative about life and philosophy. All Things Must Pass is about death, about accepting when things are over and that new things are coming. It's very much comfort music. And I mean, I just can't say enough good things about the man. He was a genuinely kind guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes through in the music. It's every song, there's a nugget of wisdom in there. So like anything that is lacking, I guess instrumentally you could argue, I think he's got my favorite lyrics of all time.
So would he rank as your favorite Beatle?
Easily, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, Paul like might be like a better musician technically, but like just what George has put out, like lyrically he's better in my opinion. So I go with him. Yeah, that's my number 9.
My number 9 is probably been my number 1 since like 7th, 8th grade to freshman year. And I've considered him my number 1 for a long time until I kind of like started to realize I haven't listened to him very much so in a while.
Okay.
And that is John Bellion. I
don't know this guy.
Yeah, never. Okay. So he's like really like mostly a producer. He produces a lot of stuff. He made a couple of like Justin Bieber songs, but he did most notably, most recently, he produced the Jonas Brothers' new album. But he has his own stuff, and I love his own stuff. It's really charming, really cool. It's not for everybody. I can see people not liking him.
Okay.
But yeah.
He's young.
Yeah, young guy. And my favorite song is Guillotine. Guillotine is actually probably
for a song.
Might be one of my favorite songs on here. It's really good. It has a good like bop to it, like a nice little dance almost.
Okay.
Yeah, you can dance this thing, and I don't know. Yeah, it's good.
Well, I mean that's a sign though. If he's this young, he hasn't put out a bunch of stuff, and you have him this high.
Yeah,
that does mean something.
He's a very off the grid kind of guy, where we really don't know if he would ever make another album. But even if he doesn't, he's good where he is.
Even more mystique.
Yes.
All right, my number 8. I have this. I mean, there's gonna be. My music taste seems kind of basic sometimes, but I got the Rolling Stones.
I don't think it, especially nowadays, it's not basic.
Okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
But I mean, what can be said? I mean, they've been literally doing it 60 years. I saw them in 2019, and they put on as good of a show as I've ever seen from people of any age.
Mm-hmm.
The music has just always been at this other level. They've experimented, and they've gone through so much. Like literally, the lineup have changed slightly throughout the years, but literally 6 decades of music. They've been doing this, and they've maintained a level of quality, and they can still sell out stadiums to this day.
Yeah.
The longevity is something that we're probably never going to see again. And I mean, there's bands who debut who like their first album comes out in like 2002, and like they like get really hot, and then they start to dive, and now the singer like can't sing anymore. These guys can put on the same show that they put on in 1964.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is underrated. They have like in the last 15, 10 years, they put out a lot of like good original stuff. But for someone who's been around that long, it's hard for them to like get people to listen to their newer stuff.
Yeah,
which is understandable. But they still come out with a lot of really great stuff. And my favorite song is probably maybe their best known song, but "Sympathy for the Devil" is an amazing song.
I like
that's basically
Painted Black.
Painted Black too. Just both of them are very kind of dark and a little mysterious, but still driving. And they're both very like 60s, like I don't want to say pessimistic, but almost like it sounds like the chaos.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I like how they capture
the music fits its time, like what's going on and its time.
Exactly. Yeah, like really capture that sound, and they branched out more than people probably give them credit. Like they have a lot of really good like slow ballads, and then they have a lot of stuff that's basically just country music, but it sounds really good. So I got to give it up to the Stones.
Nice. What I'm at 8, yeah.
Yeah, you're 8.
Okay, my number 8 is Death Grips. You ever heard of Death Grips?
No, I've never heard of Death Grips.
Okay, so Death Grips is like an
industrial... Let me look them up.
Okay. It's like an industrial hip-hop group. They like play into a lot of like really like metalish things in their like in their sound. And some really cool like production stuff. MC Ride is their headman, and he is just amazing. He really can scream his head off at times. And my favorite song of theirs is Get Got. Pretty basic for Death Grips fans, but it's a song that really gets you hyped, you know?
Okay.
And
I'm intrigued by this.
They do really, really cool stuff.
Okay, it sounds like mixtape material.
Yeah, and I'll drop some stuff in there, but one of my favorites, and yeah, one of Fantano's favorite bands too.
Oh, really?
He gave their album The Money Store a 10.
He likes a band?
He likes a band, yeah.
I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay, I'm intrigued by that. Just how unique it is. How unique it sounds.
It's very unique. Yeah, they're so
okay. Good. Okay, my number 7, another gentleman who was unique, especially for his time, Mr. David Bowie.
Yes, very, very
took many chances with his different personas, from just himself to then being Ziggy Stardust to then being the Thin White Duke.
The guy in The Prestige. Nikola Tesla.
Yes. Yeah, he played Nikola Tesla. His great, his crown jewel of an achievement. But I mean, his early stuff, I honestly I'm not crazy about, because like his first album, it's very just kind of trying to be like kind of weird psychedelic rock, and it didn't really do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
When he came into his own, though, it's some of the best stuff I've ever heard.
Also, his last album, The Black Star.
Yes, it's really good.
Really good. It might be like one of his best to date, and it's like kind of like a little experimental for him. Like it doesn't really sound like Bowie at times.
Yeah, I knew. I don't know how much of the album was written like when he knew like he was getting towards the end, but it comes through in the music that he knew this was gonna be the end, pretty much.
Yeah. Which is, it just shows, like it shows through the music and everything. It's cool. It's a really cool album.
Yeah. And this is a tough one to pick. I mean, Heroes is one of my favorite songs, but I think I'm going to go with Changes. Because it's another song you can, like, it's fun to listen to, but it has that comfortness to it. That, like, turn and face the strain is the plea he gives. And, like, it's definitely, like, a young person's song.
Yeah.
Where it's for you when you're going through something, but, you know, David just tells you the changes are inevitable, and you get through it. And it wasn't him singing, but on the Shrek 2 soundtrack.
Yes.
So, yeah, you can't go wrong with Bowie.
No, certainly not. You know, this is actually pretty interesting seeing these lists, because it really shows, like, what decade we're most into. Or, like, what time. Like, I'm a little more recent. You are not so much.
Yeah, like my honorable mentions had, like, a lot of stuff from, like I really love a lot of 2000s bands. I love a lot of acts right now. But, like I don't know, like, I have a hard time putting them above, like, a Bowie.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, probably just because I also, like, grew up listening to them and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely plays a role. But I don't, like, the list will make you think I only listen to the 70s music, but I don't.
Yeah. Certainly not. Certainly.
All right, what you got at that number 7 spot?
My number 7 is a little band called Interpol. Interpol is they fit on under like the alt rock genre. They come same time as like the Strokes, the Killers, all that. And I think what really draws me to them is they're a very gritty band too. Like it's like a gritty Killers. When I would first show them to you.
Yes.
And they have some really great. I think what really draws me to music nowadays is a great hook that can easily be sung because I love to sing, and one of my very many passions. And you gotta have a song that you can sing to. Like if you're not singing to a song, what else are you doing? You know?
Yeah, a lot of times, like if I'm out somewhere and I got my headphones in, let's say, like after hours at work, I put my headphones in.
Yeah.
I'll just put the playlist on and I won't skip anything because I'll just listen to it. Like if I'm in the car, I skip to something I know all the words.
Exactly.
Pretty much always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And something that's just not even that you know the words. Something that's just fun to sing. You know.
Yeah.
And my favorite song of theirs is a song called "Evil." I think it has an amazing hook, and it's just so good. I love everything that they do. Their new stuff hasn't been clicking with me as much as their first 2 albums, but still good enough to put them up here.
Yeah, I definitely have to get into them more because I've listened to a few songs of theirs, and like you said, I love the Killers, and they're kind of a gritty Killers, and they're I don't know their singer's name, but he has a very similar style to Brandon Flowers of the Killers. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of that era. Just I know I'm gonna find some golden nuggets in there that I didn't know about before. And the Killers also covered an Interpol song once.
Oh, really?
I forget what song it was.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, Interpol definitely deserves a look. So now we move on to my number 6. The banner, or the tapestry rather, flew high in our Oakwood apartment for 8 months or so. We have Led Zeppelin. As good a foursome of musicians that has ever been put together. One of the best singers ever in Robert Plant. Personally, I think probably the best singer ever because he's a great vocalist on top of he has emotion. Okay, there's a lot of there's a lot of great vocalists who, like, they hit the notes really well, but like you don't feel anything when they sing.
I like that too.
He has both. That's why I probably think he's the best singer ever. John Bonham's one of the best drummers ever. Jimmy Page reinvented the electric guitar, and John Paul Jones is a great bass player while also incorporating keyboards into the band very, very well. They got experimental. They did different things. Well, when they needed to be a just like straight up hard rock 4-piece band, they did it better than anybody.
Right.
And I think the mystique of that they lasted only 10 years also kind of helps, but obviously we wish there was more. My favorite song of theirs, you'll probably appreciate the story. It's a song called Ramble On, which I like because it's a really great musical story, but actually they love Lord of the Rings. Ooh. And the song is about Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yeah. It's about the journey of Sam and Frodo, pretty much.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's cool. Because they mention a few characters by name because it's just like, oh, it's time for me to go, blah blah blah, and they say, going around the world, I got to find my girl, but the girl is the ring. And then where is it? Because he mentioned, oh yeah, in the darkest depths of Mordor, I met a girl so fair, but Gollum and the evil one crept up and slipped away with her.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's just one of the things that makes Led Zeppelin cool is that they were larger than life, but they still had fun. They still had basic interests.
Oh, yeah.
And that comes through in the music. And they have songs about everything, from Lord of the Rings to Vikings and just simple love songs. I mean, they're great. Mm-hmm. I got to give it.
What am I, 6?
I believe so, yes.
6. Number 6, I have Harry Styles.
Ooh,
the man. I love this guy, man. I wasn't ever inclined to listen to him because of, he's the frontman of One Direction. Why would I want to listen to that?
Yeah.
But his solo stuff is really good. He plays around a lot with some sounds, and I really like everything he's done. He's done 3 albums so far, and even the most recent one that wasn't the best. It grew on me, and actually one of his songs on there is my favorite song of his. I think it's his best song, and that's a song called Satellite. It's a really cool song, and it just transforms into such a nice, like, gritty breakdown in the end where it builds up really nicely. Harry Styles, man, puts on a great show too, might I say.
Yeah, I definitely have to. I want to get into more of his stuff because I've only heard a few songs. Like I've heard "Sign of the Times,"
Great song, yeah.
that song. What it's the big one, "As It Was."
Mm-hmm. That
And
one's
like it's
okay.
like like I remember listening like those songs. I'm like, oh, it's a fun, cool pop song.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I heard it was when the album came out. When I heard Kiwi, I was like, oh, this dude can rock
Yeah,
when
he
he
can
wants to
rock a little
rock.
bit, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know he's a much more versatile musician than people probably give him credit for,
Mm-hmm.
just from that song. So yeah, I definitely have to get into more of his stuff, and he's just fun.
Yeah, he is.
Like I know, like he's the kind of guy like I could go to his show, even though I only know like a few songs, and like it'd still be awesome.
Right.
Now, moving into the top 5 categories. At my number 5, I have Van Halen. Now, for a long time, this was probably my favorite band. Like in middle school and like probably early high school, I would have said Van Halen's my favorite band of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the allures with them is that, well, first of all, Eddie Van Halen's the greatest guitarist of all time, in my opinion, so that obviously helps. But they were two great bands in one, where their first lead singer, David Lee Roth, they split with him in '84, and before it was hard rock, and there were more sophisticated topics, but it was a lot of party music, a lot of heavy stuff. And then they got Sammy Hagar in the band for like the second half or the second leg of their careers, and it was a whole new dimension. There was a lot more keyboards, they branched out a lot more than they had done before, and the songwriting took another level of, I think, thoughtfulness. It was a little more like sentimental, which alienated a lot of fans, but it also added another dimension. So their discography, like you can listen to their playlist on Shuffle, and because they have two completely different singers, it's like two bands you're going back and forth between. And my favorite song of theirs is called "And the Cradle Will Rock," which at the time, every like kind of hard rock band like them was just singing about parties, girls. The song is about a kid who's like a troubled teenager, and their parents are like really worried about him. And the idea of like, and the cradle will rock, like the cradle's gonna fall over, like the kid's gonna like end up in like a really bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of like, as much as like, they had like the top 40 hits about like partying and everything, like the other 10 songs of the album are like a lot of times really complex. So that's why I've always loved Van Halen, and I always will.
I'll always
What?
love the Brinx and Hearse podcast.
I will too. Only if we had time to wrap it up.
I know. I had to fit it in there, but my number 5 here is Dominic Fike.
I've heard a few.
Yeah, he's an up and comer.
Riffs.
An up and comer.
Riffs.
Yes. My favorite song of his is "Come Here," which is the opener to his most recent album. He's coming out with one soon in July. "Come Here." It's a great, one of the best riffs I've ever heard, to be honest, and it's so good. But it's only like the song's only a minute, so it kind of makes me wish.
I remember you played one for me.
Yeah, I wish it was a little longer, but it's so cool. And he can like he dives into pop, but he also has like some really cool like just alt rock songs with his like demo tape. That was really the only thing that came out for him for a long time. He's a great personality. I love the guy. I love everything he does.
Wow. He's 27. I didn't know he was that young.
Yeah. He's been around for a little bit, but everything he does is to my liking.
Is he a guy you like constantly like want more from, or are you like happy? Like,
for sure, for
slow
sure.
down. Okay.
Because his most recent album, it's like his first full length album.
Okay.
You could see that studios had a lot of pull on what was going on in the album, and he even said it himself that his second album is just going to be him.
Okay.
And I wish he did more because I see so much potential in this guy. I could see him being like really great. So I'm excited to see what his new album is going to be like without a lot of strings being tugged on. So a lot. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Creative control, my friend.
Yes.
Now we move on to my number 4. I have a band I've seen live that were fantastic live. We have Green Day.
Ooh. I thought it was going to be a little higher for you.
It was tough. It's tough to
4
get.
Is still a good spot, but
yeah, it's still high. It's tough to crack the top 3 I have.
I think I know what your 1 and 2 are. I just don't know which one they're going to be.
Okay. But yeah, Green Day, again, like started off like kind of a straight punk band, a lot of great punk music, a lot of funny songs they did, but still a lot of complex stuff under the surface. And then with American Idiot, they just everything got blown out of the water. They became like a rock opera band, but they still had punk roots. It was still grimy and dirty, heavy when it needed to be. And my favorite song is from that album, Jesus of Suburbia, which is a 9-minute masterpiece of a song that they did. And I think I think it's technically a concept album. That counts. Jesus of Suburbia is probably the best concept album. That, and they also did 21st Century Breakdown, which is fantastic. They then did a 3-year thing called Uno Dos Tre, because their drummer's name is Trey. And those albums weren't great. It just felt like a lot of B-sides. But then their most recent album, which just came out like 2017, Revolution Radio, was fantastic. And they've had a bunch of singles since then. They're always producing good stuff. And even their worst stuff, it's just like a basic rock song. It's not like, oh, this shit's awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's especially the 90s punk stuff, it still feels angry. It still appeals to like all the angsty emotions that you have. It's still like it comes out in you with that music more than anything else.
Yeah.
Especially for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, they basically reinvented themselves. So I got Green Day. That's my number 4 spot. The best 3-piece band of all time.
My number 4 is Pink Floyd.
Ooh, 4. Okay.
Is that my only older band? Yeah, it is. So Pink Floyd, I think, is the best classic rock band of all time for me personally. They have so many, they have a huge discography, but
yeah,
so many great hits. You got obviously The Dark Side of the Moon. You got Wish You Were Here, which is my personal favorite. You got Animals, The Wall, Metal, Atom Heart Mother. Just so many great things coming out of there. My favorite song in there is just Dogs from Animals. And I think it's just a perfect song where it has everything. It has great lyrics, great vocal performances, great instrumentals, just everything you want from a song. And I think it's a little slept on, actually, the album and the song itself, because they just have such Goliaths in their catalog. But what can I really say about this band? Everyone loves them. It's probably
not everyone loves them.
Okay.
I like Pink Floyd. I definitely respect them.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% get all the hype around them.
Yeah.
One thing, when I went through their discography, I don't know when, probably high school. It was high school. I listened to Dark Side of the Moon. I listened to The Wall. I thought The Wall was so much better than Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about Dark Side of the Moon, actually.
Yeah, Money's a good song, but nothing else really is oh, that shit was amazing.
Yeah.
The Wall is
my favorite is Wish
level.
You Were Here. I think that thing's perfect.
Yeah, it's been a while since I went through all of it, but if I was to pick an individual song, probably be Wish You Were Here.
I would give that album a Fantano 10.
I remember it was high school because I was sick one time, and I was listening to Pink Floyd, and I never nap. Oh, I've only ever napped in my life when I was sick, and I fell asleep in the middle of the day listening to The Wall, and I woke up and Nobody Home was playing, and part of me, I thought I died.
Yeah, they can take such things so ethereal.
Yeah.
And they can also be really creepy.
Oh yeah. I think the most fascinating stuff is probably their really early stuff before they got into the concept albums, because there's a song that I don't know what album it's on. The Nile song is really good. I think it's on Ibiza Bar. I think is that the name of the album? I can't remember.
So I think the first 2 albums they have Sid Barrett. Sid Barrett was their lead man, and everyone thought this guy was gonna be huge, and then it was very unfortunate what happened to him. But it was so crazy to see a band that lost their lead man, but they bounced back and they made some of the best music they ever had.
Yeah,
the best music they've ever had.
Yeah. To think that it's just these other guys in the band also have minds on par.
Yeah.
With what you had before.
And I think what's the guy's name? The guitarist, Dave
Gilmore.
Dave Gilmore. Probably my favorite guitarist. He's really good.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Roger
And
Waters is, but
I mean, I probably like Waters' voice better, but he's
I
a real.
I think
he's
I like
a real
everything
piece
about
of shit.
Gilmore better.
He's a real piece of shit, that Roger Waters.
Oh yeah,
So.
I was. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely get the pick. I get the pick. I get why people love them.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm on to my number 3. Correct?
Yes.
We got Mr. Bruce Springsteen, the New Jersey Prince himself, the New Jersey King at this point.
My 1 and 2 are correct.
Okay. So, I mean, Bruce, he's the everyman. He's like, Bruce is the kind of guy. His music is like you saddle up to the bar, and he's a fella there giving you some advice. That's what his music sounds like.
That's a good little analogy, actually.
Yeah, because that's what I view like lyrics as more often than not, like advice, like which can backfire, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean, Bruce is at this level for a reason. I believe I'm going to be seeing him in August at Gillette Stadium, which is very exciting. Yes, the boss. He's the boss for a reason. And I should also include, like, obviously, I think he's this incredible lyricist, and I think he's got this great voice. He would not be this big if he didn't have this amazing band behind him. Mm-hmm. And the E Street Band is one of the best American rock bands of all time. The Steven Van Zandt, Gary W. Talent, Max Weinberg, Clarence Clemens, and just an amazing, amazing group of musicians. Oh, there he is. There he is. Scowling at me. I mean, there's not much more. My favorite song, Thunder Road. It's about just frustrations, but getting out, and like it feels like music of the youth, but it's from like this place of wisdom, which I think is the best, one of the better ways to encapsulate his music. And he's gotten like political songs about marriages. He's done everything and been everywhere. So I got to give it up. Bruce Springsteen, one of the greatest of all time.
Good pick. Good pick.
Thank you. Thank you.
My number 3 now is probably the one that I thought I would have at number 1 for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And he haunted the room of Oakwood. That's Mr. Ocean, Mr. Frank Ocean.
Was he number 1 before his Coachella set?
No, he hasn't been number 1 until like probably freshman year of college. I started to expand out more, and I started to really get what my taste was.
Okay, I know 1. I don't know number 2.
Okay, Frank Ocean, one of the best singers, best voices I've ever heard. He's angelic, but he also dives into a lot of like cool stuff. Like he'll do like a little more hip hoppy stuff. Where there's a single that he put out recently called "In My Room." I love that song, even though it's not really what he does, you know. But it's just a cool like dancing little ditty, and his production is great. He uses a lot of cool He has a lot of cool uses for like guitar. Like I have a lot of guitar players come on, and they do a really great job in all of his songs. And there's a lot more to that than meets the eye with Mr. Frank Ocean.
I know he has a crazy following, so I know it's something I have to get more.
Very devout.
Dive into. Yeah,
very devout. It's like almost like a cult kind of. And you know, I would consider myself in there a little bit. My favorite song of his is a song called "Rushes 2." And this is off an album called Endless, which isn't on streaming anywhere.
Wow.
The story behind it, I'll let you guys look at you yourself and the viewers dive into it because it's a cool story behind it. But Rushes 2 is a fantastic song. It's a heartbreaking lyrics and probably his best vocal performance for me. That's my number 3.
Does he have new music on the horizon or no?
So, yeah, I don't think so. It's been very rumored by everyone that was hopeful, and I would like to be hopeful, but I don't see it coming. He was releasing he released like 4 singles where in a short span where it looked like something was coming, but then his younger brother unfortunately passed away, and it seemed like, it kind of called everything off. So, unfortunate, but necessary for him. So
yes.
happy with whatever he does. I'm good with whatever he has right now, to be honest.
Yes.
If he doesn't make anything again, good for him.
Yeah, I think people need to realize like musicians don't owe fans anything really.
Yeah. And he takes
So,
that idea to the max.
yeah. So, Mikey, tell the people my number 2, because you know it.
I don't know, actually. This is my guess. My guess is it's the Beatles.
It's the Beatles, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The Beatles, I think they're the best band ever. They're not my favorite band ever, but I think they are the best band ever. I mean, they're the Beatles. I mean, they reinvented themselves multiple times. The simple, straightforward rock stuff is great. Then they become a psychedelic band. Then they became a mellow gold kind of band, folksy kind of band. They have songs that are basically like children's music, but they're all great. They kept innovating the industry. They kept experimenting to new things. And you still listen to songs of theirs that are 50 plus years old. And you think, oh, that's an interesting sound. I wonder how they did that. Oh, that echo or this, that, and the other. All things that they pioneered and are still like fascinating to listen to. I mean, they invented heavy metal basically with Helter Skelter. And my favorite song of theirs, they're on the same album. The White Album has so versatile. There's so many different songs on there. My favorite song of theirs, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, another George Harrison song, is this very like, it's like a wailing ballad just about the world and maybe not hopelessness, but kind of like just a yearning for something better. And it's on the same album as all this different stuff. I can't say much more about the Beatles that hasn't been said.
I agree. That's one that like you can't really put much more insight onto.
Yeah, I mean it's the fucking Beatles.
Yeah. My number 2 is Radiohead.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
So Radiohead is what I think. What I love most about Radiohead is that each album is so different, and they clearly try to find their like new sounds. Each album, like, but each song on the album, it's not like each album, they try one thing in this song, one thing in another. Every song fits what they're trying to do, and they have so many great albums like Kid A and OK Computer, obviously, The Bends, Moonshaped Pool, their most recent, which was really impressive. But my favorite of theirs is In Rainbows. I think that's one of the greatest albums of all time. And my favorite song of theirs is probably what I think is the best song ever. And that is Jigsaw's Falling Into Place.
I think I've heard that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I showed you that once or twice.
Yeah.
And, Tom York is a great personality.
He sure is.
I love my top 2 have great personalities behind
them.
We've
talked. I said this before when your Spotify Wrapped came out, and it was this band and then Radiohead. I said, "Do you have a thing for just socially incapable frontmen?"
I think I do.
Okay.
And again, their track record is crazy. OK Computer has been deemed probably like the greatest album ever among critics, which I could see, and I think, whatever they do, they nail on the head. And they have mistakes, There's albums that like just don't really work, but that's okay, they're trying new things and they always pick themselves back up.
I only know a handful of songs. I know Creep, 2 + 2 = 5. What else? Fake Plastic Trees. That's them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do know their drummer and guitarist were in the Goblet of Fire. So that's probably where I've seen them perform.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they play at the dance with other like people from Pulp and a couple other bands. But Radiohead is a band like I know I would like.
Yeah.
So especially from what I know already. But now we move on to
our
my
number ones. 2 competitors here.
They are contemporaries,
but also
of the same era.
But also compadres.
Yes, indeed, compadres. I have the Killers at my number 1.
Yeah.
We could each tell them the story of how we discovered the band. I discovered the Killers because I know I had heard like Mr. Brightside and somebody told me before, just like on the radio and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I probably didn't know the name of the song or even the name of the band really. But I believe it was Christmas. It was after Christmas 2016, so early 2017.
What'd you get gift wrapped that year?
I probably got a nice whistle, maybe a pogo stick. I don't know.
Okay.
But it would have been early 2017. I was still missing Christmas. Sometimes you get those feelings in January, February where you still miss
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. And I just look up like obscure Christmas songs. And one of them was Don't Shoot Me, Santa by the Killers. And then I got more and more into their Christmas music, and then there's their regular music.
That's so interesting.
That was like that's more or less the first song I heard from them.
That's really
was Don't Shoot Me, Santa.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, and then I fairly quickly fell down the rabbit hole of them. They're the reason I got Spotify, because I was like, that's just an easier way to listen to music. So yeah, and then I fell in love with their first album, Hot Fuss, which is probably my favorite album of all time. My favorite song, Smile Like You Mean It, from them.
Probably my favorite too.
Yeah, which, I mean, we saw live, and I was, like, when people think heavy, they obviously think guitars, like loud drums. That Smile Like You Mean It live was one of the heaviest songs I've ever heard. Just because that synth was so loud, and he was beating the crap out of the drums.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I love about them, is they rock hard, it's just not in the typical way.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to Radiohead, each album of theirs feels like a different step. And not saying like, oh, a step further, just like a different thing, a different outfit they're wearing that day.
Yeah.
Because Hot Fuss is very like, oh, British, more like synth heavy. Sam's Town's very kind of American, more masculine. Day and Age is a bit of a mix, kind of almost science fiction-y. There's a lot of very like existential songs on that album. Battleborn goes back to more like Americana. Wonderful, Wonderful is like, I don't even fucking know. It's like philosophical and religious. And then Employing the Mirage is like party music. And then the most recent song, Pressure Machine, is very folksy. They're my favorite band. I think they've made most of my favorite music. If I don't know what to put on, I just put on their playlist. Because I know there's going to be good stuff. And I think there's literally only 2 songs they've ever recorded that I don't like.
Being?
So, they covered a song called Where the White Boys Dance, which is just kind of weird and shuffly. And then there's a song called Deadlines and Commitments that I wasn't really a fan of off of Battleborn. Everything else I know every word to.
Nice. Devotion.
So they're my guys. Those are my guys right there.
Good stuff. My number one, a competitor in the field.
Yeah, this band was ruling the world when the Killers were just putting up their diapers.
This is the Strokes, baby. The Strokes.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite band ever. I mean, like I said, I love songs that you could sing to, songs with good hooks. And these are the hook kings right here.
They are the hook kings.
And so I guess the first time I heard it was 2020, actually. So fairly recent to be deemed my favorite band. And I've heard like, rumblings about the band, and Is This It is like the greatest indie rock album of all time. So then one day I was sick with COVID, and at night I was like, I got nothing to do. Let me listen to something. So I was like, let me give them a shot. And I loved them. I loved everything about them. Like that little effect they had on the microphone where it almost sounds like he's in another room.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so cool.
I love that sound so much.
And I dug a little deeper. A Room on Fire is my favorite album. It takes everything that Is This It does well, and it just amps it up a notch, a little harder, a little, I don't know, a little more personality. And, they have what? Is This It? Room on Fire, First Impressions of Earth, Angles. 6 albums under their belt. A couple of them don't really click with me. That's okay. First Impressions of Earth. You can see Julian Casablancas, odd fellow. You can see he's kind of, trying to find his new sound here. He doesn't really want to be tied down to the first 2 albums, which I can understand for sure.
Yeah, I think that one was also like top heavy. Like I remember liking like the first 4 or 5 songs, and then the rest I was like, all right.
Yeah, and Angles, I think, is a really cool. I think it's pretty cool for them. They're still trying to find something else to click with, but it doesn't land that hard. But it still has its moments. Come Down Machine gets a lot of hate. I could see why, but I think it's only because they're such a good esteemed band that they really shouldn't be making this type of music. It's just okay music, just not good Strokes music, And their most recent album, the new Abnormal, they're still making music. I think that came out in 2020. Yeah, they're still making music to this day, and they're like 40 or whatever. I don't even know how old they are, and they're making some of the best music they've ever done. This is like a top 3 Strokes album right here. and it's so good. My favorite
I
song.
was
Oh, go ahead.
no, give me the song. Give me the song.
Oh, my favorite song of theirs is "Ode to the Mets."
Oh, that's the favorite. Okay, I thought it was gonna be something off the first two albums.
I'm debating about. I was also debating about "I Can't Win," the closer for the
Yeah,
second
I know you
album.
love that one.
But
I know
"Ode
you
to the
love that
Mets"
one.
is just epic. Tell me your experience with
If
"Ode to the Mets," please.
Oh, it was last week. It was Thursday night. I had my internship in the morning, and then I went down to the beach, and I sat there with my dad and my uncle for a little bit, and then I stayed at my aunt and uncle's house, and then it was getting near sunset, and I said I'm gonna go back to the beach. And I went to a little place called Camp Cronin in Narragansett, Rhode Island, and I sat on the beach, and I listened to Ode to the Mets as the sun sat.
Mm,
It was a very, very peaceful experience.
that's epic.
It was
That is
wonderful. It was
epic.
wonderful. But it was actually a Sunday night. Actually, I hit shuffle on my playlist, and I remembered like, oh, Hard to Explain's on this playlist, and then I just kept skipping through the songs until I got to Hard to Explain.
Mm, yeah, I think "Ode to the Mets" is the
Because
greatest.
talk about a hook.
Oh yes, I mean they have so many just standout songs, but I'm a sucker for album closers, and "Ode to the Mets" is the best closer of all time.
Yeah. Which my experience with the Strokes listening to their stuff is like that's so true. Is that you can tell the care was put into like, oh, what's going to end the album.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, as much as I love the Killers, they do just kind of throw what's left kind of at the end, which, sometimes the album, it just does kind of end. But with the Strokes, there's finality to it, which I've always admired very much.
Yeah, because I like to listen to albums start to finish. I don't like to shuffle around an album.
No, if I'm listening to a whole album, I do start to finish.
Yeah, exactly. So I like when there's methodical.
Yes, and he still sounds as good as he ever has.
Oh, yeah.
The live clips of him, he sounds amazing.
He's been doing some of his best vocal performances ever in this new album. I mean...
Yeah. I remember you telling me, like, the later stuff, you hear how good a vocalist he is. Yeah. And on the new Abnormal, you really get that.
Because he's, like, kind of, doing what he wants to do. He's really going out for... He's expanding his boundaries, and his as her voice gets older, it sounds a little different. But his voice has just been settling in so nicely as he ages that it sounds so good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Really good stuff.
Because it was always a little, like, rough and raspy, too, which I guess kind of helped.
Yeah.
But still, he doesn't sound like somebody else. And one thing that I think hit me, like, why, like, I think people like the Strokes in general, is, like, a lot of their songs are, like, kind of about regret. And, like, oh, something bad happened and, like, kind of feeling bad. And there really isn't a lot of music like that.
No.
So and each one of their songs, like, especially like the first two albums, it's like a lot of complex emotions that like they're not like telling you how to feel. It's just like lays out a situation, which so like as songwriters, like they were on another level there. I feel where very few rock bands were quite like that.
Right.
And I feel like they're probably the best New York band of all time that I could think of.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, there's probably some old school. I know there's some old school ones, but like, they sound like New York though.
Yeah, they're a New York sound.
Yeah, it's like it's rough and dirty and grimy, but it's also magical.
Like the entire first album, you could tell like this is written for falling in love in New York.
Yes,
yeah,
that's such a good way to put it. So, Mikey, I guess do you remember how Julian was once asked by an interviewer in it was a Dutch interviewer, and he asked him, "What do you have to say to us Danes?" And do you remember what he said?
He had a cousin who was Danish.
Yes, he did.
And she was a fox, apparently, in his words, and he kissed her a couple times, and he liked it.
Apparently so.
And he hopes she saw that interview and.
Yes.
Called him.
They made him called him to never call again.
Yes.
Julian, do yourself a favor, folks, and look up Julian Casablancas out of context videos on YouTube. They're wonderful, wonderful things. He's such a delightfully bizarre man.
He's an American treasure.
Oh, he is an American treasure, yes.
Yeah.
And he's very much a New Yorker as well.
Oh yeah.
He dresses like a New Yorker. He's a subway person through and through.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah. So, Mikey, I think that concludes our episode on our top 10 favorite musicians of all time and our favorite songs of theirs. And the Strokes close their album with "I Can't Win," but when you listen to the Brinx Truck and Hearse podcast, you always win. And this has been the Brinx Truck and Hearse podcast. My name has been Ryan McNeil.
Michael Frieri.
Let me wish you a Heidi.
Ho!